This is Mayor Chris Bollwage, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Our City. The City of Elizabeth and the County of Union have plenty of vaccines available. Residents can visit ucnj.org/vax, V-A-X, or ucnjvaccine.org. Click on Union County, Peterstown Community Center, the Sampson Center, and then Kane University, or just simply call 908-820-4250. We are also available and prepared to give out booster shots in accordance with the guidelines from the CDC. Peterstown is open from 1 to 7 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. The Sampson Senior Center open Wednesdays from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturdays 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and the hours at Kane University vary, so just check the county website for scheduling. You do not need an appointment, yet walk-ins are welcome and masks are required. We ask that you have no food, drink, smoking, or chewing gum 30 minutes prior. A photo ID is required, and anyone under the age of 18 must be accompanied by an adult. As always, insurance is not needed, but if you do have coverage, please bring a copy of your insurance card. All kids will need a copy of their birth certificate and a parent or guardian to sign a consent form on the day of the appointment at the center. It's also extremely important that we tell our friends and neighbors who are not vaccinated to get vaccinated. Currently, the City of Elizabeth is at 88% vaccinated, and in the 12 to 18-year-old age group, we are at 78% vaccinated. Those numbers are very, very good. We need to get over 90%. Our numbers are extremely low. We've been averaging about 8 to 15 cases overnight. That's a lot less than 180 to 220 when this started. The vaccines work. Always social distance, wear a mask if you cannot separate. Washing your hands as frequently as possible. Personal responsibility is extremely important. And if you have any questions, you can reach us on our social media sites or call our public information office at 908-820-4124, and we will get you as many answers as fast as possible. Now, for tonight's show, I am pleased to be joined by Miss Jackie Park Albaum, who is a director of urban agriculture and especially working with the Groundwork organization here in the City of Elizabeth. Jackie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
So, Jackie, I'm not used to seeing you like in a clean white shirt and a background like that. I'm used to seeing you in work boots and dirt and, getting into the ground and planting things. Tell us, first of all, about yourself, Jackie. You've been now doing this for years, but it's not what you plan to do, is it, Jackie?
No, it's not. Happy to say I did put on a clean white shirt. It's important to look your best when you get to spend some time with the mayor. So out of respect, I cleaned up a little bit. And to your point, I started out in fashion a million years ago. And I guess fashion buying and merchandising. And I think I still do the same thing, kind of, but for agriculture. Really wanting to make agriculture available to as many people as possible and to, share that information. So kind of a strange trajectory, but I'm here and I'm in the city, which is obviously my favorite spot.
Jackie, that's a 180-degree turn, though.
It is. I am a quick change artist.
So tell us about Groundwork Elizabeth.
Sure.
You've been there a number of years now. What is it and what does it do?
Great question. So Groundwork Elizabeth is an environmentally focused nonprofit. We are part of a nationwide trust. There's about 26 of us, and we work in communities to kind of change places and change lives. And what that really means is in our urban communities, there are a number of conditions around the environment that can always be improved. We can always work to make our water cleaner. And we work also to create spaces where the community can be part of nature, One of those is the microfarm, which I think we'll talk a little bit more about. The other is Trotters Creek. We want to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to engage in the environment. And so we get them as young as possible and give them as much information as possible, and, and set them out. So, yeah. And so what do we do? We have a couple different focuses. I am urban agriculture. We have the current pleasure of hosting a small micro farm in the city of Elizabeth, with huge thanks, to the city for being strong supporters. We've built gardens at every school, most of the senior centers, all the housing authorities, and then each year we do a Jerry's free plant sale, named for my dear friend Jerry Brydon, who's no longer with us, and we give away about 15,000 plants. We want to ensure that all of the kids in Elizabeth Public Schools always have the opportunity to grow. And that's, our kind of our urban ag component. We build gardens around the county. And then youth development and rivers and trails. As you know, we worked on the Elizabeth River Trail. What an honor that was. And we have about 15 to, well, this year, I should say, with the addition of the Mayor's Youth Council and a program we did at the Housing Authority, we had about 40 kids this summer who were completely entrenched in the environment. One of the coolest things, and I tried to get you for the day, but you had other obligations, we took the kids from the Housing Authority kayaking in Warnaco Park. It was amazing.
Were you planning on putting me in a kayak?
I'm not going to make a comment on that right now.
Tell us about the caricature behind your shoulder.
This is my dear friend, Jerry Brydon. He unfortunately is no longer with us. It was his insistence and urging that first, he started these seeds for us for, 4 years. And for the plants that we do distribute, he really put us to the gun to get our first greenhouse up at the micro farm, which we received a lovely donation from Williams Nursery in Westfield. And he just kept on pushing to get that greenhouse up. So sadly, Jerry left us just as COVID came, but his memory lives on, and definitely is a huge inspiration for all of us to do what you can with what you have to help the common good.
So tell us about the micro farm that you just mentioned a couple of times in your remarks. Where is it? What does it do? How big is it? The greenhouse is there. We call it Jerry's greenhouse, right?
It is Jerry's house, and a little bit later we have a second one coming. But I have this handy dandy little map, and I can totally send one over to the office. I think if anyone wants to see in a little bit more detail. But we have approximately a micro farm is a farm less than 5 acres that generates at least $1,000 a year in revenue. When you think about our urban areas, and you more than most know this, there's no land. If you want to have a big garden, if you want to start a farm, you're not coming to us. Traditionally, you want to be coming to a city in New Jersey. We're so densely packed. Through the efforts of your administration, nonprofits, the county, et cetera, all different people came together, and we identified that there was about an acre behind the Elizabeth Public Library. And the cool thing is, it will always be available as long as the library is. Frequently people start gardens in these abandoned lots and then they lose them. So it's really important for us to develop this micro farm in an area where it would stay, which it happily will. We are the first farm in Union County in over 50 years. We have an actual farm number. I may possibly have another tattoo added with that number. And a variety of things goes on. So we have a market garden, and that is a demonstration of an in-the-ground garden. Most often we don't plant in the ground in urban areas due to contamination. After quite extensive site testing, we determined we could put some food in the ground. That food, we do sell a little bit right now to restaurants. Most of it is going to local feeding programs, whether it's the Housing Authority, Jewish Family Services, the coalition, et cetera. We really do keep it in Elizabeth. So we have, I can look at it right there. We have a handicap accessible trail. Something we found really early on is seniors need solid footing. You can't take a 80-year-old person, not that you can't, but most often you're not taking an 80-year-old person into a field. So we created a trail that goes through the whole thing. You can take a wheelchair. We've had a number of people in wheelchairs and other disabilities come in. We wanted it to be accessible to everyone in the city of Elizabeth. We have beehives. We have about 6 beehives, and they produce some nice amount of honey, but you really have those beehives in order to increase pollination. And most of our food, especially our vegetables, come through pollination, the bees and the pollen, dumping things all around. There is a gourd tunnel. So we have all these crazy wild gourds that grow up this tunnel that you can walk through, which is the coolest thing ever. A variety of different other raised beds. We do a bunch of trialing. And then we have a library of flowers. And next spring, we will be opening that to the public. There'll be over 150 different species of flowers, both native to New Jersey and some of the more popular ornamentals that do well in this area. Although I have to tell you, Mayor, right around the letter T, they started getting a little rambunctious, and they might kind of move around the city. So we might find some of our library of flowers in different places. Maybe the school kids can help us find.
So Jackie, the microfarm behind the Elmore Library that you just talked about, the fruits and vegetables that are ripened there, where do they go? You said you actually sell some, but where actually are they going?
We've done some work with Brydon on selling. With us not having a huge amount of land, we don't produce like a ton. So we work with Jewish Family Services, Coalition to House the Homeless, the Housing Authority, and then there are some additional locations that we will donate them to. Moving ahead next year, we are looking to add a fresh produce stand, which will be pretty cool in partnership with a local school.
Can people visit the microfarm?
Absolutely. Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. There's usually staff. People can take a tour around. We have a key, so to speak, of the microfarm so people can understand what's going on. We're a pretty friendly group. And then in the spring, we will be open for field trips. Early spring, we'll start our field trips. We had hoped to do this a couple of years back, but with COVID, didn't quite work out. What I failed to say is we're getting a second, well, we're almost done with our second greenhouse. And this is a big accomplishment. We received a grant from the Natural Resource Conservation Services. They work to put in, they call them high tunnels. They look like a greenhouse, but there's not a heating and cooling system. This is the first urban high tunnel in Union County and just about the 25th in the country. So really setting some precedent here. And we do all of this because we want our urban friends and neighbors to understand wherever you are, you can grow. And there's all types of different ways you can do it. With this new high tunnel, we can start earlier, our plants, and we can go later, which is really cool because we're here really to welcome school children during the summer. They're not quite around all the time.
Yeah, so Jackie, I hear you're going to dedicate that in the name of Assemblywoman Annette Quijano, who I know has been active. Tell us about the Assemblywoman's role in the microfarm.
Absolutely. Assemblywoman Annette Quijano is the visionary of the Come Grow With Us program. About 12 years ago, and I was in a different world at that time, she recognized that in urban areas, it's difficult. It's difficult to grow food. You might not have the resources, you might not have the land, etc. And when her family came from Puerto Rico, the first job was working in the tomato fields of New Jersey. And it left a really good impression on her. So she encouraged and did some fundraising about 11 years ago and got our first 2 gardens up. And I have to say, since that time, we have built 158 gardens in Union County, with about 52 of them, I think, being in the city, if I'm not mistaken, but don't hold me to.
No, but a lot of those are at schools too, right?
every school before 2020 in the city of Elizabeth has some type of garden. Sometimes they have land, so they are boxes that go into the ground. And sometimes they don't. And we move into these earth boxes, which are excellent growing systems for our or schools without land.
Tell us about the urban farm dinner. We kind of glossed over it, but it's coming up.
It is. So we are looking at November 14th. Many, many moons ago in a greenhouse at the Portuguese Club, we kind of birthed this concept of an urban farm dinner, working with local chefs and farm fresh produce as a fundraiser, and also to show people what can be done in urban areas. You have these beautiful, I was very inspired by these, gorgeous 200-person dinners and fields. And unfortunately, it was a little out of my price tag. So we decided instead to do it here. And this is our fifth. We have some excellent partners. If you recall, last year we were with the Urban Griddle. Magic Fountain has helped us, a couple other people. This year, the Garden Restaurant on McGee is doing dinner. Portugal Express, and there's a sidebar to this, is doing dessert. And a dear group of women, some of the Board of Ed, some people from the Portuguese Club, et cetera, are making a giant Portuguese soup for the happy hour. Many moons ago, when we christened our first greenhouse, there was this soup, and it's just a wonderful memory. Each of these people, each of the organizations will be getting produce from this farm and from another 2 or 3 farms, because we don't have everything. And they will get those ingredients. So the food that you are eating is, coming from this farm or a pretty local farm as well.
So,
but dinners to go.
yes, I was just going to get on that. In November of 2019, we were able to sit in the greenhouse and have dinner when the chef was cooking outside. But because of COVID, that's a little tight. I don't think it's a good idea. So you're doing it to go. How are you making that work? Who's doing the cooking? Are you doing the cooking?
No. I'm better at putting the things together than being the chef. My husband is preparing the sangria. He's got a long history of sangria preparations. But no, the Garden Restaurant, Portugal Express are coming in, are partnering with us to do it. And I do want to give a shout out to the Elizabeth Education Association. They're underwriting some of the dinner. We do this dinner, not to get off topic, but I guess I am. We do this dinner to raise funds to support the micro farm. And one of the reasons we want this micro farm here is for the kids. As you know better than anyone else, we're above 30,000 kids now. We want them to come here. We want them to see this. They deserve just as much as, our suburban and rural kids to understand how food works. So, in that spirit, the Education Association wanted to help. And this will help to underwrite the field trips that come in. Maybe there still is a small materials fee, but kids are not going to be paying a fee to come see the micro farm in Elizabeth.
So, Jackie,
They're Elizabeth students, I should say.
So the happiest of hours, you call it, and then it's the to-go. Do you expect the people all arrive at the same time? Because the parking lot's a little bit small. Have you staggered? How'd you handle that logistic?
Well, once people purchase their tickets, and you can go to groundworkelizabeth.org, and there's a link to purchase tickets, they will all receive emails. We have some great partners right in this area who will allow us to use some of their parking. So parking instructions will be provided, and then exact instructions for pickup. There'll be, after the happiest hour where we can dedicate the greenhouse to Annette, have a cocktail, have a couple little farm bites in a pretty large area, as you know. Then there'll be a station, and you'll say, Mayor Bollwage, party of 2. I'll check you off, and I'll hand you your dinner to go. And it'll be your dinner and your dessert, with the appetizers kind of happening at the micro farm.
At the micro farm. So, Jackie, tell me about the greenhouses again. You have one for Jerry, one for Annette. What are the differences in the greenhouses?
Oh, great question. The first greenhouse that we put up is a steel greenhouse with a plastic covering and a rock base. It has heating and cooling, and that's what technically makes it a greenhouse. The new greenhouse is actually very similar in construction, but there is no heating or cooling. The reason we will use the natural rhythms, temperatures of the earth, and that will allow us with the protection over the plants. We can start it earlier. We can put plants in the ground earlier, and we can keep them going. One of the projects we're real interested in is starting to grow snack peppers for the local schools, a nice, easy snack that we could help to provide to classes, or at least, a good sample when people are here. Peppers can go pretty late. They can even take a tiny little bit of frost. So our hope is I can still have a group in November come in and they can pick their snack peppers as much as a group in September. And I think it's a really good dedication to the Assemblywoman. It's her work and her thoughts that have allowed so many to do things. It's nice that this greenhouse will welcome so many people and keep on sharing.
Hey, Jackie, are there one question before we go? There's bees. Are there any other animals at the microfarm?
There are no animals at the farm at this time. We do have a couple of cats. There are some worms and obviously our large contingent of bees. We will continue to discuss animals, but we'll have to pull you in for that conversation.
Yeah, I'm not crazy. Anyway, we'll get that later. So tell us before we close the date of the annual farm dinner and how to get tickets if they're interested.
Absolutely. November 14th, the happiest of hours, is from 4 to 6 p.m. and dinner will be ready to go at 6 p.m. You can visit groundworkelizabeth.org and there's a link right on the main page.
Hey, Jackie, where are you, by the way?
I am at the Ag Lab. This is an agricultural laboratory that we built at the micro farm. I didn't mention at the micro farm, we also have a 50-bed community garden. So I'm in the Ag Lab right now, and this was built to hold the program, but also as an indoor classroom. So we can have meetings and the community can use it, etc. It's a pretty sweet spot.
So Jackie, thanks for being on the show this evening. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. And thanks for all you do at Groundwork in the urban farm community.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to see you.
So this is Mayor Chris Bollwage. I want to thank Jackie for joining us on the show. Sign up for the Urban Farm Dinner. You'd be really happily surprised with the food that is generated. This is Mayor Chris Bollwage. We'll see you next week on another edition of Our City. Get vaccinated.